Do you dream of scaling your real estate business and increasing your sales, but it's currently a one-man show? Well, today we're going to be talking about the different types of teams that you can structure so that you can build a good pathway to building a team. Let's get into it. Today I want to talk about 6 different models that you can start looking into to build your team if it's the right time for you. And I will be doing more videos around this subject so that you guys can piece together exactly what it looks like to build a team. So there are 6 different models that I want to look at today, and we're going to go over some of the pros and cons of each one of these so that you can decide which one is right for you. These are the 6 models we'll be talking about today. You've got partnerships, you've got the agent-centric, the admin-centric, the functional, the lead generation, and of course, the rainmaker model. What is going on? My name is Andrew, or of course, you can call me Mongo. I run a small real estate team here in the Destin, Florida area. So right there in the panhandle of Florida. We've sold almost 1,000 homes now at this point, and we did about 80 million in volume in the last 2 years alone, not to include the previous 6 years that I have been building teams. And the average price point is a little bit under $400,000 for those past 2 years. So I mentioned all of that just so that you know I do come from experience here, and everything that I'm going to be talking about is from my experience. So it might not be, from 40,000 feet up in the air, but it is going to be from a team leader's perspective on what I've seen, what I've helped other people build, and what I've built in the past. And of course, if you have any questions for me directly, all of my information will pop up on the screen. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. And of course, all of my social media will jump on as well. You can private message me on any of those platforms, or of course, reach out directly. But let's get into it. For those of you watching and you do aspire to build a team, or maybe you're building one now and you just want a little bit of extra information, we're going to go over each one of these and go over the pros and cons. And then at the end of the video, you'll want to stick around for that, because we're going to be talking about what exactly to do with this information so that you can narrow down your focus to figure out which one of these platforms or models is best for you. So the first one I want to talk about is partnerships. This is the easiest one to get into, but it's also the one that carries the most risk in my personal opinion. Now you see partnerships all the time, namely husband and wives. Sometimes it's 2 friends. Sometimes it's just 2 people in the office getting together and forming a partnership that way. And then from there, how you scale out your team is completely up to you. So this is actually kind of an overarching one where you could still do the partnership model and then build it out however you would like underneath it. But there's also some little minor nuances that you definitely need to know, and that's why I put this in separately. So if you are thinking about building a partnership with somebody, definitely make sure that you're paying very close attention to this part, especially during the cons portion, because the cons are very heavy when it comes to a partnership. But of course, the pros can be very beneficial as well. So generally with a partnership, it kind of depends on how you're going down this road. If it's going to be you and your spouse, well, there's not a whole lot of extra information I can give you there. Pros, cons, stuff like that are really going to be kind of out the window because you guys are spouses anyway, so everything is kind of 50-50 either way. But still make sure that you pay attention to it, because there might be something here that you hear that will be very important to know, and then maybe a couple of takeaways that I'm going to give at the end that might help you whenever there's a little bit of friction. Now, if it's 2 agents sitting in the same office, maybe it's a friend of yours, maybe it's a good friend that you've been in real estate with for a long time, you're thinking about partnering up because, well, you just think it's going to be a little bit better. So generally the best way to do that is make sure that you are the opposite of your other partner in terms of skills and responsibilities. Generally, a partnership that is structured that way is going to have a little bit more legs to it. It's going to have a little bit more longevity, because you guys aren't necessarily jumping on top of each other for certain things. If one of you is a high analytic and the other person is a people person, then get the people person in front of people and get the analytic behind the scenes. Now, what this is going to cause in a lot of situations is a little bit of friction of like, well, hey, I'm doing all this stuff with the clients. Oh, well, this person needs to be making sure that they're bringing in the leads to feed that person. And then you guys both need to understand that you have a very specific role and that you need to be performing those roles at a high level. In this aspect, partnerships can be absolutely great. If you guys are able to split everything up and go down this list and go, I am very comfortable with you handling these things, as long as I'm handling these things and we don't cross each other too much, there's always going to be a little bit of crossover, then great. This could be a potentially great partnership. So the pros of a partnership are fairly obvious based on what I just said. It is leveraging each other's strengths and weaknesses to your best advantage. So you're using somebody's strengths and their covering for you on your weaknesses. And of course, you've got shared workload and expenses. If you guys do this properly, then it's actually a really good way to boost kind of your start, right? And you have twice as many funds, you have twice as much capital going in. You've got two, hopefully, producing agents to push money into the company, and that could be a very good thing. And then when you're splitting your workload into the things that you're really good at versus what they're really good at, then it can come together very nicely. And then the last pro is you've got equal distribution of funds, profit, and of course, decision making. So if you've got a rough decision to make in front of you, you've got somebody else to bounce this stuff off of. Now, all three of those come at a little bit of a cost. So the first big con is potential disagreement between you and your partner, okay? If this is your spouse, well, that's one thing. You're going to have to work through it. But if it's just a business partner, somebody that was in your office or somebody that you think would pair well together with you, then this can create its own problems in of itself. And the next con is that you're going to have shared responsibilities for anything financially related or legally related. So if one of you guys gets in a bad situation and you're sitting in the courtroom and somebody's suing one of your clients or something, then you're both going to be sitting in there as the team leaders. And same with financial obligations. If you guys overspend, then you're both responsible for that. So you both need to make sure, and my suggestion would be to make sure that you both have a healthy nest egg so that you can push back into the company in the event that you make financial mistakes. Because I'm telling you, from one team leader to a future team leader, that is definitely going to happen. You will make mistakes. It will be costly. It is just part of the game. There's not really much going around that. And another con is it is a little bit challenging to find a business partner or multiple business partners, if you're doing multiple, that share the same values, work ethic, and want to go in the same place as you. And it's even harder to find somebody that's willing to do that for the long term. Life changes, right? Like something happens to your business partner, he gets a kid, she gets a kid, and now their whole focus is on that, and they're not putting in 9-hour days in the office anymore. They want to scale that back to 6, and you feel like you're putting in more work than they are. Eventually that could become a problem, right? So you need to know all of these things, and you need to put redundancies in place to make sure that in the event that one of these things come up, that you guys have a plan for this. My big suggestions for partnerships, I heard this so many times at different real estate conferences, and it was make sure you have your divorce paperwork with your business partner, not your spouse. Well, if it is your spouse, maybe that too, but the divorce paperwork between the partnership before you get into the partnership. So my very first team, that's exactly what it was. So I joined, well, let me clarify. It's technically my second team. I joined a team, I stayed there for a year, and then whenever it was ready for me to go, I said, hey, I'm going to be leaving. And I talked to my old team leader, one of them, and I said, hey, I'm going to be building up my own team. There were 2 team leaders on my team. They had a partnership, and theirs blew up, not in a pretty way, right? And then we joined, and we didn't put in divorce paperwork, and we used to always go to these conferences and laugh and just go, well, it's not going to happen to us. Well, unfortunately, things do change, and life circumstance changes, and one of the partners wanted to get out of that situation. And it was very gut-wrenching for a very long time, because this was not only my business partner, it was my best friend, it was everything, right? And we didn't have any of those divorce proceedings. Now, ours was very amicable, and we're still very good friends to this day. It was just a difference of where we both wanted to go, and I was heading in one direction and she didn't want to go in that direction anymore. Just dealing with the team, it's just hard on a lot of people. It's very hard on me even. I don't blame her for it, for not wanting to be a part of it. It's just part of it. But these are the things that you need to know if you are going to be building a partnership. Now let's move on to the next one. This is more of an agent-centric or a hierarchical. That's actually what I want to call it, but as you can see, I'm struggling to say it on video, so that's why I changed it to agent-centric at the last second. But this is the team model I am currently using. So you've basically got a team leader, and you've got everybody else underneath. For me, it's the opposite. I put myself at the bottom of the org chart and everybody else is above, because I see my role as the hierarchical leader or the agent-centric model leader as being the admin to all of them. Whatever they need is what I'm going to try to provide within the bounds and limits that I've set for the company itself, right? So we've got a budget and we've got things, and I have to still follow all of those guidelines to make sure we don't spend ourselves into the ground or make dumb decisions or go against our core values and things like that. But that is essentially what the agent-centric model or hierarchical model is that there's a hierarchy, right? And in this model, the entire point is that you eventually slide over into a place where you are no longer, as the team leader, handling the day-to-day sales, and you are now in support of the other agents. If I can support 10 people and make each one of them get 1 extra sale per month by my efforts, it's way better than me trying to get 10 extra sales or even 5 extra sales, depending on how the splits are on your team. 5 could equate to essentially 10 solo, 5 team ones, right? So when you're looking at it from that aspect, it's kind of like you're an incubator and you're just like making sure that you're shoving value into the agent so that they can go out and do more up to their comfort level. And then, of course, you've got admin staff that kind of circle around that to help with that as well. So the 3 pros on this one is, first, there's a very clear delegation of tasks and responsibilities. This is very simple. An agent comes on board, they get a job title and description and say, hey, here's what you're responsible for, here's what we're going to offer you, here's how we're going to make you successful, make sure that you're making more money on the back end. Now, of course, my comments here are a little bit biased because this is the one that I chose to go through, but it's just because I just like the way it's done. This is the same kind of model that is essentially hinted at in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So that MRE book from 2001 that everybody's probably read 100 times, or at least you probably should if you're thinking about team leadership. This is the model that they're going after. Number 2 is there's opportunity for growth within the team. This is really good for the agents, right? Because if the agents know that they can go in and get a team leader position at some point or a pod leader position, which I'll talk about these in future videos. So make sure that you're subscribed and hit that little bell so that you'll be notified every single time I do a new video so you don't miss any of these. But it gives them a place to go, and that is one of the core tenets of an employee. Now, I know they're 1099, they're not really an employee, but if they are working with you, they're your business partners, as I like to call them, or business associates, then some of them are going to want advancement. Some of them are going to want extra things on their plate or to move into a different role, and this system allows for it pretty easily. And the 3rd pro is that you get direct support from the team leader. That is literally their job, to make sure that you are successful. So if you are a team agent and for some reason you're still watching this video, which I thank you for, by the way, then this is a great model to get into because you are generally going to get direct support from the team leader or a dedicated person that team leader has put in place to help you, whether it's a team leader, a training manager, or what have you. Now, one of the big cons for this one is that sometimes the agent loses a little bit of autonomy. They lose a little bit of their face, their brand, their person. Now, that's very specific based on the team itself. Like here on our team, it's very clear that they still have their own business. They brand the Emerald Group, which is my personal team. But for the most part, they still have their face on things. They still get to close deals. They put their name on it in the MLS, but not every team does it. In fact, I would say out of all the team leaders I talk to, most of them take that away. So that can be a con for some of your agents. And to pair with that, it generally comes with a lack of creativity and individuality for the agent themselves. On a lot of these teams, there are a lot of things they just can't do. Certain ways that they advertise. Maybe they have to run their advertising, their Facebook post through somebody, and then it has to get tweaked, and it's not exactly what they want. Maybe the message that they send out to the public needs to be a certain way. So that can be a big downfall as well. And the 3rd con I have for this particular model is that it is very difficult to maintain culture and morale. This is something that in the current phase of growth that I am in my company, this is an actual problem, making sure that culture is staying there, because as I'm scaling back out of sales a little bit more, I'm not in it as much. I'm not with the agents. I'm not out showing property, sending pictures, sending them things, so now I'm having to find other workarounds to build that culture a little bit. And as somebody that has a little bit of a weak bone in the managerial side of things, it is a struggle for me. And this is something that I wish that I would have known ahead of time. And it might have been easier to cross into this before I got to the size that we are currently. Now, the next model is the lead generation model. This one could be done a bunch of different ways. You could actually build a non-traditional team. So if you're at a brokerage that allows that, you don't even have to have people underneath you directly. This is great for people that are very good at lead generating, and that's what they want to focus on, or they know somebody that is, or they know the systems they can put in place to do the lead generation, and that's what they want to focus on. They don't want to focus as much on the conversion or the showing of the properties or going on the appointments. This is a great model for that. It will allow you to put in specialists in each one of these areas. So if your thing is, man, I'm really good at for sale by owners and there's a ton of them in my city and I just nail them all, and that's what I like doing, and I can book 2 appointments a day with these for sale by owners, this is a phenomenal model for you to do, because you can do all of this and then send your experts out there to do the rest of the work. Now, is this going to hurt conversion and things like that? Yeah, maybe, but it's something that you would work through, obviously. So the 3 pros on this one is, 1, you get very focused at your lead efficiency models, and you get to continually improve them and stay inside of your lane. So it's kind of like being an expert in one little field and then just getting better and better and better and better at it. Number 2, you get the opportunity to leverage your systems and leverage your knowledge, right? So if you know how to do this thing at a very, very good level and you can teach it to other people to help maintain that, then that just adds to the bonus, right? Adds a little bit to the team. And the 3rd pro is that people that are high performing in their field of whatever that little micro portion of the team is, you can compensate them very well for doing this because you're looking for the main expert. So if you're main lead generation and you need somebody to run the appointments for you and make sure that, well, the conversion is high once you get in front of them, then great, you can pay that person very well and they can just run appointments for you. And because they're going to be doing more quantity versus quality, then they can do a lot more deals, which in turn makes a lot more business for them, or compensation. And now for the 3 cons in a lead generation model. One of them hinges on you completely, and that is, if your lead generation fails, so does the team's. So you're the bottleneck, which is true in most of these models, but it is more so in this situation. It is focusing on you, the rainmaker, to make sure that you're bringing in the deals for everybody. And the second thing is that you have a lack of flexibility during the sales process. You've got one way to do it, and because you're focusing on this lead generation model and that's what you do all day, you're not going to be as focused on the systems and models and everything else to run the team. So that's just something that you need to know as a team leader. And just like the previous model, it is very challenging to maintain morale and support the agents when your main focus is running lead generation, because that is a time thing. So if your main thing is being on the phones for 6 hours a day, it only leaves you so much time to run the finances and the team and the morale and the team events and get client events and anything else that you might need to do for the company. Whew, that was a lot longer of a video than I thought this was going to be. I hope this was very helpful for you. If you are watching me for the very first time, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to give away everything that I have in my noggin out to you guys. And if you're brand new, thank you for watching me. That was awesome. All of my information will pop up on the screen. If you want to talk about LPT Realty, that is a brokerage my entire team picked up, and we got a big synonymous yes to go over there. We didn't get a no from a single team member. 15 people all said yes to go over to this brokerage from EXP. If you want to know why, just go ahead and give us a call. We can talk about that. And other than that, I guess I will see you guys next week.